All right, in this lesson, I just want to go through and run through some of the other layer styles just so you know what they do really quickly. So I just have this text right here, and if I double click this layer style, we have some that we haven't seen before. So we saw bevel and emboss, we saw stroke. Inner shadow, this is something that's kind of interesting. So if we do inner shadow, and we increase the distance so you can see it a little bit more. And this is going to depend on the size of your text and the font point itself. So you might need to increase this or decrease this. But you can see that it kind of creates this sort of cutout look. So it kind of looks like there is a red paper behind a white sheet, and there's letters that are actually cut out, and it's creating this inner shadow, which I think is pretty cool. Inner glow does what outer glow does, but to the inside of a layer. So again, we're going to have to increase the size of this to see what it does, but let's also change the color. Let's just make it super gaudy. I don't like that at all, but if you do that green, you can really see what this is doing. So it's adding to the inside of a layer. You can always reset these to the default by clicking Reset to Default. Or if for some reason you're always changing something such as the stroke color or size or the drop shadow size or direction, you can make a new default by clicking Make Default down there. Let's unclick those. Satin, it just gives this sort of satin style look to your text. So that sort of fabric-y, nice, flowy, glowy kind of style. Color overlay. This is one that I often use, especially if I am kind of creating that sort of silhouette look. So we did this very early on in the course when we created the shadows for the elephant and the kid in that first project, but you can also do it to text, to pretty much any layer. Now, there's no reason to do this for text really, because you can just change the color of text in the color settings or the character panel. But for other shapes or graphics or pictures, that's where you would do that. Gradient overlay does a very similar thing. And this is one that you might want to use for text to make it easy to add that gradient. Pattern, this is pretty cool to add a pattern to your text. It kind of creates this cutout look, which is, I think, is pretty cool. And then we saw outer glow, and we've seen the drop shadow in the past. Let's reset to default for that drop shadow. Drop shadow is another one of those styles that I would be careful with. It's a style that I think a lot of amateurs add a drop shadow to make it look what they think better, but sometimes it can look a little amateurish. But I think this sort of shadow, just something subtle like this, can look pretty cool. It makes this text pop out from the background. Layer styles. So those are just some of the other layer styles you have available to you. Just play around with them. Go in, play with the effects. Again, this isn't a course where I'm going to go through each individual option and tell you exactly what it does. I think it's up to you to kind of go in, play around with it, and see what it does for yourself, and you'll learn better by doing that. But of course, if you have questions, feel free to post them to the course about any specific option or layer style you're trying to do, and I'll help you out. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next lesson.